Yeah, hello guys. You are welcome to the Java Academy. So, so basically, this is a continuation of the authentication system that I had started. So, even though unfortunately the first video I recorded, I mistakenly didn't record an audio for it. So, if you go to my YouTube channel, you would see that the last video there, the Java Academy. So if you look here, decided to work on an authentication system that works with OTP verification and forgot password. So I had done the part where we sign up we sign up with a new user. So unfortunately the video didn't have an
Companies
audio.
of all sizes
But
use
then even
BigQuery
at that, if
to
you
uncover
follow the
new
video,
insights from their data, like cost savings.
you will still be up to speed with everything we've done so far. So if you look at this video here, authentication with this guy here, so it's actually the first video in this series. So in the second series here, so some people would have thought I would work on the login system, but before that, I actually want to work on the OTP system. So if we look at an OTP system, so it basically stands for one time password. So meaning a sort of password that the user receives, he authenticates himself with that password, or he verifies himself with that password. And once he does that, he's unable to use that OTP again. So it means he only uses it once. He has to use it within a specific time frame. So if that time frame elapses, then the password should no longer be it should no longer be valid. So this is basically what we are trying to build now. So let's firstly enumerate the different steps that we need to follow. So let me create a document here. So in here I'll just type the different steps. So the first step is to do an email configuration. Okay, okay, and email service. So here we are going to have, because we need to deliver the OTP into the user's email, which is probably the easiest way to actually send the OTP. So we need to set up an email configuration as well as an email service for sending the OTP into the requester's email address. So that's the first thing we are going to do. The second step is to create a method that generates a random 4 digit password, random 4 digit code. Okay. So once this is done, so we create a method to send the OTP, then a method to validate the OTP. So while validating the OTP, we are basically doing two things. We are checking the correctness of the code. Okay. So if I send 1818 as your OTP, once you receive that, you also have to send 1818 back as the code when you are trying to validate. Also, we also need to check that the time frame for the validity of that OTP hasn't expired. So we also need to check for time elapsement here. But this is basically the 4 steps that are required to create this OTP service. So let's get started. So according to this list here, we work on the email configuration and then the email service first. So yeah, so before we do that, we are going to be using Google's email configuration for this. So you can just dive in straight into your Gmail account. Okay, so click on this icon here, click manage your account. Okay, so click manage your account. Then from here in this search box here, search for app passwords. So app passwords here. So it will ask you to enter your, just to verify that you are the one. So yeah, I would say I'll type in my password. Okay. So you can see here that I already have an app password. Okay. So is there a way I can pick this? Okay, since I can pick this, so let me create a new. So let me call this OTP service. Okay, then create. So you see this password that is generated there. You basically need to copy it. Okay, copy this. Click done. So that's basically that password is, so you can only view it once. So once you lose it, you've lost it. So let me open a notepad file here, and then I'll paste this here. So I will be using this later in my configuration. So I would come back here into the authentication system. So don't forget that this is the configuration for our database. And in here, I would now start my email configuration. This is just a comment. Okay. So we need spring.mail.hosts equals smtp.gmail.com. Okay, then spring.mail.port. So here I would use 465. Okay, then spring.mail.username. So in this case, I'm going to use my my email address, right? So usually what companies do is that they create a no reply email address, and that would serve as their username. So, but in my own case, I will just use this emajibade5@gmail.com. So, what this implies is that when you are sending a message, the messages will be sent from this email address. That's basically what we've done here. Then you need to specify the password of this mail client here. So, so this is basically that password that we've generated here. So I will just come over here and paste it. Okay. In here, there is no room for spaces. Good. So we have our password here. Then we need some more properties. Spring.mail dot properties dot mail dot smtp dot auth. Okay, true. Then spring.mail dot properties dot mail dot smtp dot start tls dot enable. Set this to true as well. And then the last one is spring.mail dot properties dot mail dot smtp dot ssl dot enable. So if we don't make any mistake in our spellings here, we are actually done with the configuration. So if we go back to this guy here, so we've done one part, which is the email configuration. Then the next part is the email service. So we continue now with our email service. So in here, what I would do is I would create an email service class. Okay, so this is the email service class. So in here, I'm actually going to have a number of methods. I'm going to have at least one or two methods to send mails. So one of them would help me send mail via with attachment, and another to send mail without attachment. So sending mail with attachment, we are going to test how it works later. So let's see. We'll annotate this with our service, and probably for purposes of login. So I'll do this. Okay. So here I'm going to auto wire a dependency. So this would be Java mail Okay, so I think there's something else I need to add to my pom.xml here. So this, so as you know, most we need to actually import libraries for almost everything we do here. So I almost forgot that I haven't imported or added Spring Boot mail library. So Spring Boot starter mail. So that's basically what I need to add here. So I would go straight to pom.xml here. Then somewhere within the dependencies, so just underneath here, I would add a dependency, and this would be Spring Boot, then starter, not here, then mail. Okay, so I just need to reload the project here. So once this is done, I should be able to have access to Java mail sender. So okay, so this will take a few seconds. Then I could just come back in here. So then aside that, before I had the Java, okay, so I would just add private Java mail sender. So you can see the one from uh, mail.java and so on like that. So Java mail sender, okay. Then I also need to add the email sender. So let's call it email sender. Okay, so like I said, this email address here is going to be our email sender. So I need to call this property directly. Okay, so I basically need to call that property from my application.property. So here we'll see how we can actually have access to any of these properties from inside our code. So I'll come over here. I would use this annotation at value. Okay, then here dollar sign, then curly braces. Then I will just call that property name spring.mail.username. So this would give me access to the email sender. So if we yeah, so with this now I can then create a method. I'll make it void since it's not meant to return anything. It's just to send a message. So let me say send email. Okay. Yeah. So this is going to be that. So this send email here, I would want it to take in a parameter. So here I would go and create a DTO. Okay. So let's call it email details. Okay. So email details here is just to contain a number of properties. Okay. So here is a DTO. I'll use this guys at data at all ask constructor at no ask constructor, then as builder for building uh, final objects. So here I would need to add private string recipient. Okay, this here is to represent the recipient of the email. Okay, then private string the message body, so which is the message itself that is to be sent, then private string subject. So yes, with this we should be good. Okay, so I would come back in here and then I would add email details, which is the detail I just created as my parameter. Okay, so let me make use of a try and catch block so that I can easily track errors that might come up later. So I will create an object of simple mail message. We are basically creating it's just a text mail that we want to send. We don't need any design and so on like that. So just a simple mail message. So with simple mail message, you can deliver emails via text. There won't be any styling, your company logo won't be there and so on. Just ordinary text. So we'll say new simple mail message. So we've created this object. Then we manipulate this object here using the principles of encapsulation as we already know. So here we set from. So from is the person who is sending the message, and we already know that to be the email sender here. Okay, this guy on line 19 is the email sender. So we set this. Okay, then mail message dot set. So set to here is the recipient. So we'll get that from the email details dot get recipient. Then mail message dot set the text, which is the message to be sent. So we'll get it from the DTO2 dot get message body. Then yeah, the subject set subject. So we send email details dot get subject. So with this, we've actually built an object of simple mail message, and then we have basically everything we need to send messages. So the next thing I will just do is to call the send message method from this object here. So I would just say Java mail sender dot send. So this will just take this object that we've created here, mail message. Okay. So just for to aid tracking of different things, I could just log a number of things here. So logging helps you to actually track issues. Okay, you can say message sent to, then I would say email details dot yeah, dot get recipient. Okay, could log dot info message sender. Oh, it is just the email sender that I need here. It's this guy. Okay, so if you are just seeing this for this is just login. Okay, and I'm able to use this from this annotation here. Okay, so login is just it's like if a way of doing some rough work. So I want to once I send message, I want to like get these details of each message that I send. And then yes, I think this should be enough. So here I'll just catch an exception. Yeah, I'll just catch an exception here. So we are good. So we have a method for sending email now. We can actually test this. So how do we test? So firstly, for now, I'll make this static. Oh, doesn't work. Okay, no need to make it static. We'll just create an object of the class. So, so to test, I'll create an object of email service. Okay, and I'll just call email service dot send email, right? And it will take yeah. So with this, I can build the message body, just testing, and the recipient. So let me send it to my other email address, spesm.com. A message subject. So I would say testing. Okay, so with these three, we are fine. Don't forget that I don't need to specify the sender again. I've already specified the sender here. So it's just the same sender from again and again. So let's run this. Okay. It says Java mail sender is null. Okay. No problem. I think this is not the proper way to test this, but no problem. Once we build our OTP service, we should be able to test it from there. Okay. So that's the first. I think that's the first step. We are now done with. So we are done with the first step. Now on to the second step. So I need to create a method that will generate a random four-digit code. So to employ good coding practice, I would create a package. I'll just call it utils. So here I will just be adding some methods that would be reused from time to time. So let me call this app utils. Okay. So I would want to make this method static so that I can call it without creating an object of this guy. And I don't want to be injecting this class in different places. So public static, yeah, it should return a string since we want the OTP to be string. So static string, let's say generate OTP. Okay. So the length of the OTP, I might want to make this configurable, but then let's set it to 4. So without any issues. So we can set this to 4. And yeah, so this basically yeah, so with this method we should be able to handle the generation of our OTP. So if we look at this again, if we try to understand, what we want to do is a way to generate integers because an OTP consists of integers. Okay, so an OTP consists of integers. So we want to generate 4 integers that will be concatenated to each other, and then we that is basically what we are going to send. So let's see how we would write this kind of algorithm. It's going to be a short one. Okay. So what I would do here is I would create an object of a string builder to keep appending the integers. So let's say OTP equals new string builder. Okay. Then I would want to also create a random number object. So random is for generating a random number in Java. So random equals new random. Okay. And then yes. So I need a counter to help me know the number of integers we generated. So that integer would be initialized to 0 from the start, then a while loop. So what I'll do is while count is less than, okay, let's try while count is less than 5. I want 4 digits, right? Okay. So in here, what I'll just do is OTP dot append. So what am I appending? So it's just a random number I want to append. So that will be random dot next int. Okay. So if you look at this, there are 3 overloaded methods. One that doesn't take any parameter. So with that, you can generate any integer. So, but I would use the second one that requires a single argument. So I will set 10. So what this is doing is that it will generate numbers between 0 and 9 for you. Okay, it will generate numbers between 0 and 9. So at this point, I will just do plus count. So let's say less than 4. Then we test an error. Okay, so then we test it. So here I would then return OTP dot string. So we are good. Okay, so let's test this. Let's see the kind of number we are going to generate. So I would simply call that method generate OTP. So let's see. Good. So we generate 1659 the first time, run it again. So 3776. So we have our four-digit OTP generated. So I think at this point again, we've actually cleared this second guy. Now, okay, I think something that I missed here must have been an entity class for OTP. That would be the next step. So because we actually need a way to save the OTP, okay, we need a way to save the OTP, and then with that we should be able to check if yeah, we should be able to check the expiry as well of the OTP. So inside here, I would create an entity class for OTP. Okay. So then here I would create at getter, at setter, at all acts constructor, at no acts constructor, builder, at entity. Okay. So yeah. Now this one I'll just have private long ID, which is going to end up being my primary key. Private string, which is the OTP that is going to be generated now. That's the next thing we need to save. Then probably the owner. Yeah. So let's say email, right? So this is the email or the identity of the user who requests this OTP. So if you look here, we are generating and we have an email that is being saved for any user. So and again, we are sending the OTPs to email. So with this, we are able to track that a particular OTP was sent to this particular email address. So then, aside that, I would want to use a local date time create. So anyway, just to be sure that there's no error here, so I want to go back to this point here. So local date time here should be from java.time. So then created at. So here I would have at creation timestamp. So what this would do is that at every point in time where I'm saving an OTP, this would save the particular time and date that the OTP was generated. So this will save it for me. And then I would also have one more property, local date time expires at. So with this, I should be able to set the time when the OTP would expire. And I can do my expiry validation via this field later. Okay, so another thing here is I should create a repository, OTP repository. So this would extend, oh, that's an error. There should be an interface. So extends JPA repository. And then, so this repository will be bound to the entity class that it should manage, which is this OTP guy. So we pass in the OTP and then the type of the primary key, which is long. Okay, let me come back here. I missed something. So at ID, at generated value, strategy equals generated dot identity. So we are good and cool with this. Okay. So in this repository, so I think I should have one method which you would see why that method is important later. So I would say find by email, then string email. So just this method is all I think I need here. And then yeah, that's basically all I need. So in terms of DTO, so I think I should make use of a DTO. Okay. So I think I should make use of a DTO. So yeah, what I would do is inside this guy here, I would create an OTP request class, and then again the normal at all constructor at builder. So just a single variable. So when you are sending the request to deliver the OTP, you basically need just one value, which is the user's email address. So I would say private string email, and then that's all. So I would need one more thing here. One more thing. New a I also need a DTO for response. So I'll call it OTP response, and then let me copy these annotations. So here I just need a single thing here. Private boolean is OTP valid. So yeah, good so far. So in here, I will now add one more service, which is my OTP service. So this is where I'm basically going to have everything that deals with the logic for sending and validating the OTP. It's all going to be in here. So OTP service, and then yeah, so add service, add all labs constructor, add SLF4J. So add all labs constructor is for me to use constructor based injection here. So I need my OTP repository here, so I would inject it. I would also need my email service as well, so I would inject it here. Okay, so let's go. Here I would just say public void. There's a send OTP. Okay. In this case, or should I just use a void? Yeah, I would want to use this. I should return a type of response. So yeah, so I should return a type of response. So let's say not just void. So let's say public response. So in here, I will just do so to send OTP, I need that OTP request object. So so step by step, right? We need to generate the OTP. Okay, okay, then send the OTP. Okay, save the OTP. This is all we need to do here. Okay, so we get started. So generating the OTP, I will just save it into a variable here, and then don't forget it's from app utils here. So app utils dot generate OTP. So I have my OTP saved here once it's generated. Just to be sure again, I can log everything step by step so that we can see what is going on under the hood here. OTP. So ideally, your OTP should not be logged. So because you don't want to expose the user's OTP as well to the and to you as the software engineer. Only the user should know. But just for the exercise here, we are going to be logging the OTP. So yeah, OTP. Okay, so we've done the first step. The second step is to now send the OTP to the email. So for that, we have the email service. So here I will just call email service dot send. Then this guy requires compulsorily it requires email details object. So I would build that object in here, and then it requires the subject. So here I could just send the OTP, or maybe something descriptive. Let's say do not disclose. Okay, something like this. The recipient, so it will be gotten from this object here. So as you are calling this send OTP, you are also sending the information on the email that you want to send the OTP. So I would get it from there. OTP request dot get mail, then the message body. So in here, I will just do this organization is has sent you an OTP. For this OTP expires in, so because of this test, let's make it 2 minutes so we can, you don't have to wait a long time to verify that our OTP also gets validated. So what I'll just do is I'll concatenate the OTP. So yes, I think this is all. So to send the email, we need the subject, the recipient, the message body. We've configured the sender from the email service here, once you recall. So these are just the three guys that needs to change from time to time. So one more thing, I think I should save the OTP in my database before sending the mail. Okay, so that's it could be in any order. It depends. Depends. Okay, so let me save. So I'll just do OTP repository now, which I have injected above. Okay, dot save. Okay, so to save now, I will just call the OTP entity. Okay, so I'll build the object to this way. Then email, right? So the email will be OTP request dot get email. Then I need to save the OTP. So the OTP would now be that particular OTP that I sent. Then what else? The created that is generated automatically. So now this is where the work lies. The expires at. So according to, I want the OTP to expire in just 2 minutes. So I would say local date time dot now. Okay. Then plus minutes. Okay. So here I will just set 2 minutes. Okay. So we are good. So with this, we've generated our OTP here. We've saved this OTP, and then we've sent this OTP as a message. So with all things fine, I can then return an object of response. Here I could do status code of 200. I could do response message. Let's say success. Okay. So one last thing I should do is to have a controller method, a controller class for OTP as well. So I'll say OTP controller. Okay, so to receive HTTP requests, I would add REST controller to set the request mapping. So request mapping here. So I could say API slash v1 slash OTP. Okay, no need for login here. I think we are fine. There may be an all lax constructor so as to use constructor injection. So here I will just inject the OTP service. Okay, then public response, which is a detail that I've created already, which is here. It contains status code, response message, and user info. So one thing I should just do is let me add one more annotation. JSON include, then include dot and include dot non null. So any value that is null here, I don't want it to be displayed at all. So we move back here, then send OTP. So at request body to convert JSON to Java object. So this would be OTP request, not response. Request, OTP request. So here, we just return OTP service dot, I call it set mail. No, the OTP service, yes, dot send OTP. So we'll pass in our OTP request and we are fine. So we can make this a post mapping and send. So I think we should be fine with this. So before testing anything, let me create the method for validating this OTP as well. So to validate OTP, okay. So to validate the OTP, we first need to ascertain that the user actually sent an OTP. Okay. So if the user didn't send, we'll return an error message. Okay. We need to check, we need to also ascertain the OTP hasn't expired. Okay. Then we need to also ascertain that the OTP is correct. So yeah, if the user has actually sent an OTP, right, the OTP hasn't expired. We now need to check that the OTP that was actually delivered, which we have saved in our database, is what the user is supplying for validation. Okay, so that's the third step. So if you can clear all of these three checks, then in that case, the OTP is validated, and then we can move on. Okay, so let's move on to creating this method. Okay, so we can continue using this as a guide. So once you can break down the logic for whatever you want to do, you are actually halfway to solving your problem. So let's say response at BTO, say validate OTP. Okay, so for these two, I would want to create a DTO. So with this DTO here, all I'm just trying to do is to all I'm just trying to do is to check that yeah, it's just to provide properties for checking that my OTP is valid. So, and I think inside that guy, all I need to just have is the OTP itself, as well as the email of the person who is trying to validate the OTP. Okay, so let me call the class OTP validation request. So here I will proceed to create the DTO here. Validation request. Data at collapse constructor at no constructor at builder. So just two properties, private string OTP, private string email. Yes. So I can come back to import this. Okay, so let us start with our checks. Okay, so the first check is check that the user has actually sent an OTP. Okay, so we do this OTP equals, so we use the repository to check if he has actually sent an OTP. So this will be OTP validation request dot get email. So if your email is not in our database for in the OTP table, then it means you've not sent an OTP at all. So yeah, yeah, again, just to be sure of things, I would log again. Okay. So now at this point, it means I can just check if OTP is null. Okay. So at this point, I can just return that response guy dot status code, let's say 400 dot response message. So here I could just say that just add you have not sent an OTP. Okay, that's the first check. The second check is if the OTP has expired. Okay, so here I'll just check. So checking if an OTP has expired, right? Let's look at this OTP table again. So we have a created at, we have an expired at table. So we are interested in this expires at. So to check, so when we create a table, let's say we create an OTP now, which is 11:56. It means it expires by 11:58. So I'm just going to check if the current time is after this expires at. So at that point, the OTP has expired. Okay? Or in essence, it's saying that if the expires at time is before the current time, so it means the time it's supposed to expire has elapsed. So that's the logic I'm going to actually write here. So I would come back here and check if OTP dot get expires at dot is before. Okay, is before would now be local date time dot now. So in here, I would now return another error message. Return response regard of this dot let's go, let's say 400 dot response message and say expired OTP. Yeah, good. Now to the third step, right? To ascertain that the OTP is correct. So I would now check if OTP dot get OTP okay dot equals the OTP in the request. So basically what I'm checking is the OTP that is saved in our database. I'm checking if it doesn't equal the OTP that is being sent by the user. So that would be OTP validation request dot get OTP. So if these are not equal, so I need to add in, yeah. So to show that if they are not equal, I would return another error message. So this will be another 400 invalid OTP. So if you have cleared all of this, it means this OTP is valid. So that yeah, it means this OTP is valid. And then if you look in here, I have an OTP response here, which is OTP valid. So what I would do is that inside this response guy, I would now have private OTP response, OTP response. So yes, that should be fine. So here I will just return response dot status code that will be 200 but response message this will be yeah, it will be a success. Then in this case the OTP response. So I could build another object here for OTP response. Then is OTP valid? I'll set it to true. So This is all I need to do. It's all. So in here, I have the controller method for sending OTP. So I will need another method for validating the OTP too. So this will be validate OTP. The public response validate OTP. Yes, request body OTP validation request, OTP validation request, then return OTP service dot send OTP validation request. Sorry, I'm still calling send OTP here, so it should be validate OTP. Yes, yes, yes. So if we can now try to test this. So let's come to the main method here, then run this code. Okay, so one more thing I need to do here is because I'm using Spring Security, so it means that all endpoints are secure. You don't have access to them. So let's even test so that you see what I'm talking about. So yeah, I would add a request. So I'll call it send OTP. And OTP localhost 8080 API v1 slash OTP slash send OTP. Okay. So this request is just the email address. Email mydibade5 at gmail.com. So I'll save this, send the request. So it says forbidden, right? If you come to the code, so it means that's because of the Spring Security I've added. So what I would do is that I would come over here and then tell Spring that I don't want that particular endpoint to be secure. So what I would now do is dot I think here. Okay. So it's http method dot post API slash v1 slash OTP slash. So it means any endpoint that's within this range. So it should not. It should allow us have access to it. Okay. So let's rerun. We have an error somewhere. So I think there's an error here. Where's that security guy? Okay. Let's see. Should it be 3 stars? Okay. I think I get the error. Not 3 stars. So I only did this. I did not specify. Yeah, I think I did make a mistake here. So let me just clear it. Let me just correct this error. So to correct this error here, I think there's an error in that construct. So yeah, I think I get it now. This statement here shouldn't be here. Okay. So it should be after this permit all. Okay. Okay, just permit all. Then I should have another permit all here. So after each permit all, then you can add another request for another endpoint. So let me send this and then we test again. Okay, so I think we are good. So let us send OTP to this email. Still forbidden. In that case, let me do this slash OTP. Let me do send OTP. Okay, so I can do the same. Just copy this. I'll change this to validate OTP. So I would rerun this. So let's try again. This is showing the forbidden. Let's see. Yeah, this thing should work now. Okay, so I think I get why it isn't working now. So let me go back to this controller. V1 slash OTP. API slash V1 slash OTP. Okay. Okay, so I think the error is actually with my postman. So if you look here, yeah, if this method, oh, I'm actually sending a get request. That's the first error. Then I should change this to post. Save this, send. Okay, so it tells us 200 success, meaning that it has been sent. So let us now come over here and then check. So you see, do not disclose, and then this as my I have this as my OTP. So I would copy this. So let's come over here, and then I would just duplicate this, and then I would call this validate OTP. Okay, I have to change the endpoint. Validate OTP. So there are a number of things that we actually need to test. Then we need the OTP as well. Let us send a wrong OTP, and then let's send. So it tells us invalid OTP. So let's say I used a different email address now. So let's say MA now, send. So it says you have not sent an OTP. So this guy is not saved. So if we check my workbench, let me open it. So I'm actually trying to while away time. I want 2 minutes to elapse. So we can see that I want 2 minutes to elapse so that it will see that just to check for. So we have our OTP here. So we have the OTP here. And then the expires at is at 10:07. So have just about 1 minute left. So I'm trying to ensure that we test that expired at. So inside the code here, one more thing I need to just ascertain before any other thing here is yeah. So we've tested this. We've not tested this, we've tested this. So this is the last check that we need to check. So just check that this guy is before this. Then aside that, you would recall that I mentioned that our OTP, it is also very important that we only use it once. Okay, so how can we ensure that the OTP is used once? So what I can do here is I can anytime that user wants to send an OTP, I can actually check if he has an existing OTP on the system. Okay, if he has an existing OTP, I'll delete that OTP and then send another one. So what this will do is that I don't save excessive OTPs for a single user. Okay, so yeah, I think that's basically what I'm going to do. So I would also add a check here so that if the user has an OTP on the system already, so I don't want him to have to be to be saving multiple OTPs on my database. So if you are allowing multiple OTPs to be saved, you might run out of a database space in no time. So let us test this expired OTP. Sorry, I need to revert to this send. So it tells me that the OTP has expired. I hope you get now. So it means all our logic works. So the other thing I need to check to add now is if I send another OTP with this guy, that OTP too is going to be saved in addition to this. So what I would just do here is I would come back to my code. I would add a check inside the send OTP method. Okay. So the check I'm trying to add here is does that user have an OTP? Okay. So yeah, what I'll do now is so to check if that guy has an OTP. So check if he has an OTP on our system. So I'll just do OTP, existing OTP, because OTP repository dot find by email, right? So that would be OTP request dot get email. Okay. So I'll now check if existing OTP not equals null. So if it is not null, it means he has an existing OTP in our system. So what I'll just do is OTP repository dot delete existing OTP. So this would ensure that you can only have one OTP at any single point in time. Even if you resend OTP, right? The previous one is deleted and then you have just one. It is only that one that you are going to be running our checks against. So let me rerun this code. So let's go again. So yeah, that should be sent. And this is to this same email. Okay, so then let's go to my mailbox again. So I should have received another one. So here it is. So 3736. So easy to memorize. I'll just add it here. 3736. Send. Tells me that the OTP is validated. So with this now, you can see that it's quite easy to create an OTP service. So there are a lot of things you could also add. If you check our database now, you'll see that just one OTP is saved for that user. So if you send another one again, this one is deleted and that one too is saved. So you can think about any other thing you could do probably to improve this code and then yeah, you should be fine. So all right guys, not to drag it long, I think this should be the end of this session on OTPs. This next one would be on creating the login system, and then we proceed to forgot password, resetting the password, change password, and all of those other things. So see you guys again in the next recording. Bye for now.